You are listening to Girls, Ghosts, Ghouls, a podcast where three women discuss horror movies from the silent era through the 1970s. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Spotify, and Anchor. Timely, topical, terrifying. Well, hello, and welcome to our latest episode of Girls, Ghosts, Ghouls, where Betsy, Rebecca, and myself, Jenny, talk about random horror movies that precede the 1980s. And today is Rebecca's pick of, it's dual named. In the States, we grew up hearing of it as Horror Hotel. The actual name of the movie is The City of the Dead, which in my opinion is misleading. I think Horror Hotel is the better name, but
I would agree.
Honestly, I think it's funny because neither of them is very...
No, it's not really the most appropriate names, but The City of the Dead makes you think of Zombieland, which is, not quite right. It's not wrong, though. I mean, as you know, there are characters that have been burned at the stake and then resurrected to do Satan's work.
Hail Lucifer or something.
Because that's what witches do. We can go on about that forever, folks. So two of the three of us are witches. So we do know, in fact, that this has no basis in historical nor anything. Not in the world, not in...
There is so much historically wrong that I was like, hey, no, they did. Aside from the fact that no witches were ever burned in the States, they hung them.
They that's it.
Press them, drown them.
The pressing was
they were trying to confess, but often it killed them.
He was to enter a plea.
Yes, but it often killed them. So.
I was going to say,
strangely
famous. Add more weight.
Giles Corey.
So that also the difference in the name between like the regional releases. So it obviously released in the UK first, and then it was a year later released in the United States. And there was also, in the original Horror Hotel cut that was released in the United States, they took out the whole bit where Elizabeth Selwyn is being burned and she calls to Lucifer and says what she'll do and how she'll do his work for all eternity and sacrifice
it all down.
Go.
I have made my pact with thee, O Lucifer. Hear me. I will do thy bidding for all eternity. For all eternity I shall sacrifice unto thee. I give thee my soul. Take me into thy service.
So all that got cut out of the US version originally because,
too much Satan.
Yeah. We can't have people calling to Lucifer in a fictitious movie with no basis in any fucking thing.
Yeah, no kidding. Even though it's a movie and it's totally divorced from reality. Oh no, can't have that mentioned. Really lighten up.
Couldn't handle that. That it might just teach, young children witchcraft and Satanism. In no way accurate at all. So good luck with that. Not that I would know how to invoke Satan because I have no interest in that. Satan's not in the craft. We don't know what he is. So
I don't personally believe in it. So I don't know.
It's not somebody
my opinion always would be is you're too small to be noticed. Sit back down.
My thing is, I thought he was just always right there. I don't think you even need to yell. You can just be like, Satan.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
I'm ready to make that deal. No, you need a crossroad. Come on.
Yeah, we had this discussion. Crossroads
and a fiddle.
That's right.
Or some dice. You play them in cards, different things like that. Yeah, that's how.
Yeah, the devil went down to Georgia. All right, we've totally
anyway. Yeah.
Sorry. So it's hailed as an atmospheric horror movie, which I do give it. It is atmospheric. It has got the great spooky vibes when you get into Whitewood, where the Horror Hotel is. The Raven Hotel, in fact, which I'm
Raven Inn. Yeah, I'm like
makes me happy.
Love it. Yeah,
I would live there.
Yes.
Constant fog.
Same.
Oh yeah.
Constant fog. Nice little cemetery with the stones falling over and a rundown church that nobody goes to anymore, but still has a reverend.
Yeah.
Didn't think
What
that worked.
The
No, yeah,
implication
no
being
kidding.
that he was alive during the witch trial.
The reverend, he shouldn't have been, because there's no reason why he would stay alive.
Yeah.
Which
But
is also weird. Like, who stayed in this town?
Yes, if it's so bad, if it's so cursed, why are you still there? It's, you're the white person in the horror movie who doesn't listen to the danger signs and is like, okay, no, it's fine, it's fine.
I'll just go in the basement.
It really makes
Put a
no
pin in
sense.
that one.
Yeah, the basement, it doesn't exist. So yeah, quick, just update. So like it starts out, it's at a college, and there's
Well,
it must be a very small college because the class.
It usually starts out with the cut scene of us seeing Elizabeth Selwyn.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
you start
shows
out with the
like
burning of the witch.
Puritans, and they go to her house and they knock on her door, and she comes out looking kind of hot. So of
Of
course
course, they brought her out. I actually thought she was in jail, really,
Maybe.
but anyway,
she looked like tousled and her hair was
she
wild.
looked awesome.
She had on
I thought
way
she
too
looked
much eye
sexy.
makeup, and I was like, "Oh, that girl's a witch because she looks great."
Mhm.
Oh, you can tell the villain, they have wonderful eye makeup.
Absolutely.
And she had awesome poise, by the way.
She
Her
did.
whole like resting bitch face game and the way she would gaslight. Oh, I was admiring her.
Yeah.
Cute. Yeah, so they drag her out. They put her on the stake, and she calls out to the general, whose name is Keen, apparently. And she's like, "General, General," and they look at him and they're like, "Do you know this woman?" And he goes, "Nope."
Yeah. Jethro. Jethro
Pop
was the
up
character.
later.
No, that was
You know,
Yeah.
no. Sorry, what?
I thought it was Jethro.
Yeah, I did too. It's
She
Jethro.
called out too. Okay.
It is
his name
Jethro.
is Jethro Keen.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. Right. Okay.
you're both right. It's
Got it.
Jethro. Yeah.
Yeah. So she calls out to the general, and he's like, no. And then they're like, "Cool." And then they focus in on faces like, "Burn her," like Elvira.
Your usual crowd scene with peasants and torches.
They
Yeah.
set her on fire. And then Jethro has a change of heart, apparently, and he's like, "Lucifer,
Yeah.
she is your
Right,
daughter."
he adds himself. Yeah, so she
Mhm.
makes that invocation that didn't make it into the original Horror Hotel for the United States release. And then he follows up with, "Yes, Lucifer, do it. And I too will." Like, they can't hear him in the crowd. Like, why now?
Yeah.
Honestly, though,
Yeah.
what did she think he was going to do anyway?
Right.
You know what I mean? When she called out to him. Like, no, I know her. She's
True.
cool. And they were going to
She's
stop
cool.
everything.
We've been having an affair for years.
It's fine. She's not really a witch. She's just sexy.
Right. She's just hot. And then it does
Yeah.
the hocus pocus. The teacher's telling the story.
Yeah.
Burn her.
The teacher.
Burn her.
Being Christopher Lee, who,
Yeah.
gives a good burn her, burn the witch. Yeah, just
So
lovely.
they were some of the dialogue from the beginning was used in various heavy metal
Yes.
songs and videos. Both Iron Maiden took some, King Crimson took some, and
Rob Zombie's Dracula,
yeah,
the
yeah.
Fear, Superstition, and Jealousy, straight from it.
Yep.
Yeah. Fun stuff with that. But yeah,
Oh,
so, Christopher Lee's continuing with his lecture because apparently he teaches witchcraft or the history of witchcraft in this, what must be extremely small East Coast college. Because like I said, he's basically
it
lecturing in
seems
his
like
study.
it
Nature
looks
and
to me
witchcraft.
it looks to me like a select study group, maybe not like a particular class, but who knows? Yeah. It could be. God, it's probably one of these teeny tiny private hoity-toity New England colleges.
For sure.
I'm sure he's probably like a sociology or something like that just happens to focus in like this particular area because he grew up there is kind of the vibe. But he had like all of the like anthropology is what the word is I was actually looking for. He's probably like an anthropology professor and studying that kind of stuff because he had like masks and stuff on the walls.
Yeah. Probably cultural, you're right, of some sort, but
Yeah. But yeah, he's teaching a class on New England style witchcraft.
yeah, and you have Nan Barlow, who's played by Benicia Stevenson, which this is funny too. So you notice the credits, it says, and in introducing Benicia, or whatever her name was, sorry,
Yeah,
Benicia Stevenson. This was actually her 7th film, though. People had met her already.
we're
It
familiar.
might have been her first big role, though. I really didn't delve into what else she had been in and how big the roles those were.
Mhm.
But she plays Nan Barlow, the ingenue, who's very into the witchcraft vibe and decides she's going to do her term paper on it.
That seemed what it seemed okay. And to her credit, she wants to find new information. Oh,
She wanted to
New
find
sources.
new information and more historical information than what they had, which was a lot of like hearsay and stuff. She wanted
yeah.
true factual information.
Diary accounts, maybe if any place had a paper, that kind of thing.
Yep.
So I liked Nan. I liked her gumption. I like the fact that even in the 60s, she's like, fuck it, I'll go it alone. Yeah. Her boyfriend, though, Bill Maitland, who apparently was in the class just to be with her. And okay, this bothered me a lot. Like, this is just bad casting or bad acting.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be a science major. I'm like, this is Biff, the football player who's basically majoring in basket weaving. This is not a science.
Yeah. This is not somebody who's going to be taking anything that requires a modicum of thought.
I mean, just the sound of his voice, his demeanor and everything. I mean, he was like basically the jock making fun of the class, which I liked some of his cuts. They were funny. Like Christopher Lee's going, burn witch, burn witch, burn. The guy, Bill Maitland, he goes, dig that funky beat or something along those lines.
I thought that was kind of funny too. I was like, I mean, it's a dick move, but it's actually kind of funny. So
yeah, I have to give him props for some of the ones he comes in. And like they said something about come later for the next study class. And he's like, I'll bring the matches. Like, I'd be entertained by him for a few seconds and then I'd have to move on with my life. But yeah. But yeah, Rebecca, I'm pretty sure you were the one who messaged
me. I'm like, God, he's annoying.
He's annoying. The brother I thought was almost worse. Because it just, so basically the brother and the boyfriend are against her doing this, but nobody stops her. But they even confront, Professor Driscoll, which is Christopher Lee's character. And they're like basically insulting his livelihood. Like, oh, your stuff is just myth and silliness. We're science, we're fact. And it's like,
which is like in academic circles, a really shitty thing to do. Like,
like your study is not important. We deal with science. There is no witchcraft. You can't really see most of the shit you came up with in science until way, way, way later. Saying.
At one point when he's like, I believe what I can see and touch. And I'm like, bitch, what about a scanning electron microscope who sees things that are teeny, teeny, tiny?
That you can't see.
Crystalline structure of a compound. Fuck off.
You don't see air.
Yeah.
You can touch it in Ohio in the summertime, though.
Yeah, when the air is either wet or crunchy,
The day that I call close because the air feels close to you.
Yeah.
You open your door and you walk into a wall that's not visible. Yeah.
and that's when you turn around and just go, no.
Not doing it. But Nan gets her way because they can't stop her. Go, girl, go. And she's supposed to meet up with both her brother and her boyfriend in 2 weeks at her and her brother's cousin's birthday party, right? So Nan goes off into the wilds of Massachusetts and runs into the gas station attendant. Classic trope.
I love that.
He's mild though. He's not really creepy. He just starts off with, a lot of God-fearing people don't go there anymore.
Yeah.
But he doesn't call her a whore, tell her she needs to turn around. He just kind of questions why she wants to go there. And to give Nan her props, she's very much like, but I need to leave. When he starts going off on his diatribe about why you shouldn't go there or it's dangerous or whatever.
Yeah, and she's like, directions, how do I get this?
Yeah. And I need to leave now. And she's very polite the whole time she does it. It's very impressive.
She's polite yet firm in getting her own way.
I was actually super sad to see what happened to Nan because I liked the character.
I
I thought it was done so early in the movie. I was very frustrated because I wanted to see more of her on the screen.
Which a lot of people tried to accuse the movie of ripping off Psycho, but it actually was in production first. So,
Yeah, because
which
it got
is-
well, it was a British production as well. It was actually a set. It was filmed in the U.S., but still used all British actors. And yeah, I think they did already start working on it first.
yeah. Which I mean, I don't think either one of them talked to each other. They just, for both stories. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like I think Hitchcock did it deliberately, whereas this is just how the flow of the story went. If that makes any sense.
Yeah,
Hitchcock
I
wanted to
can see
shock
that,
you
yeah.
he did
Yeah.
with it, and this was just like
Mhm.
this is just how the story goes. If you really got attached to Nan, that's just your tough luck.
Yeah.
But
Too
you
bad,
kind of knew what was
sorry.
going to happen to Nan, though. Like the whole time, you were not shocked what happened to Nan, but you were just sad because you kind of liked Nan.
It
Yes,
was a well done character.
Yeah, she's driving up the road. She gets the directions. Spooky stranger she sees in the fog and stops, and she's like, "Is this the way to? Is this the whatever road it was?" And he's like, "Yes, it is. Are you going to Whitewood?" She's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Can I have a ride?" She's like, "Yes." I'm like, I would be like, "Dude,
Nope.
It's foggy. You're old and creepy, and I'm sure you're a perfectly wonderful, nice person, but you best keep hiking."
But no, you look healthy enough to walk. Have a nice time.
But Nan lets him in the car. And to be fair, the guy doesn't really get super creepy on her. He is creepy, though, and does make creepy comments after the fact, but not to her.
No, to other people, he's like, she was awful pretty. And you're like, no.
It was a fun last mile to talk to her. But they get to the inn. She is having a conversation with him. She looks away. She looks back. He's gone. Just disappears out of the passenger seat.
It's the version of the Lady in White where suddenly your passenger disappears.
Mm-hmm. Only he just went
Only
into
it's
the inn
creepy old
quickly.
guy. Yeah.
And then we get to the Raven Inn or the Raven Hotel. Well, I forgot exactly. It's the Raven something.
Raven Inn.
That has a nice little raven sitting in the thing, and awesome looking place. And we meet Mrs. Newless, which right away, the first time I ever saw this, I'm like, that's Selwyn backwards, which is a classic kind of horror movie trope. You
It
got
is
Dracula,
very much
Alucard,
so.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so, spoiler, by the way, Newless is Selwyn backwards. Though
Also,
in this
it's
case,
the
it was
same
alliterative.
actress, so it's not a hard.
Yeah, you should be figuring this out. Who also, though, doesn't look nearly as sexy as she did originally, still has this great presence.
She just has.
It's
something.
great cheekbones. She has a wonderful resting bitch face.
She's
Yeah.
quite beautiful for what this is.
Awesome posture.
Yeah.
I was just about to say very poised. And
Loved
posture
her.
sure comes into that. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of torn, kind of like not wanting to see her kill Nan, but also kind of rooting for her at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
but
like,
she
who
totally
hasn't-
gaslights the shit out of Nan, though. I'm like, she just left
Oh
and right.
man.
Oh, the whole
Lady on
time.
lady gaslighting is heavy in this one.
Mhm. But yeah, so Nan hits the bell. Nobody shows up except for this mute named Lottie, who she doesn't know, who can just make grunting noises. We don't know if she was born a mute or something, like her tongue was cut out. Who knows? But or why
Based
she's
on
at
this
the
movie,
inn.
I'm going with the latter.
Yeah, or why she's at the inn, because it seems like Miss Newless does not like Lottie, and Lottie is not in on the whole "let's kill people for Satan" plan. So seems very strange, but there she is, and she's trying to warn Nan away, which you could kind of tell. Yeah, like you can't understand what she's saying, but she's like,
Yeah. Even
Get
her
the hell
danger
out.
eyes. Oh.
I was gonna say
Don't be
they're
here.
like the
You think she would just have notes ready at this point, but she just doesn't go that route. Poor Lottie.
Yeah.
Run.
Little cards. Get the hell out of here.
But yeah, but eventually Miss Newless shows up. First says that the inn's pretty full. She drops Professor Driscoll's name. Mrs. Newless is like, "Oh, you're the sacrifice."
Oh.
Of course, she doesn't say
Yeah.
that. She's like, "Do have a room right off the lobby."
everyone who's ever stayed here has loved it.
Which I find funny because I'm guessing that's where they always keep the sacrifice. They
You
loved
gotta
it.
keep
They were
it close
dying for it.
so they don't run off or anything.
Keep an eye on those sacrifices.
Yeah. Yeah, but she, she goes in the room, unpacks her stuff, grabs, lets Mrs. Newless know she's going to wander about town, wanders through the church where the creepy reverend who's blind with no congregation blocks her way from going to the church. Might be why you don't have a congregation, sir. I'm not really.
You kind of got to let people in if you want them to show up. Yeah.
It helps with the whole worship thing, as far as I understand. I mean, it's been ages since I've been to church, but being allowed on the door is usually step one. Kind of helpful. But yeah, it kind of just goes off. Oh, but I'm skipping kind of the most important part, the creepy townspeople, who I'm never really sure if they're part of the coven or just the weird people that have not left this town that are like, oh, she's dead, and just staring at her.
Yeah. I'm assuming part of the coven myself.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of more like that they were just looking at her like, oh, that's
and the town setting too, to circle back to the atmospheric part. And when the shots when she's outside remind me very much of like the stage of a theater.
Mhm.
There's very much a sense that they are just, everything is just a facade, which it could go for a theme of this movie too. This is a facade. What you see isn't real. And then with the excessive use of the smoke machine, I have never in other movies seen so much use of the fog machine.
I mean, it's like the Wolfman scenes, but they would be specific to, they weren't the whole time. It was just like in the woods,
Yeah. No, this was like a constant presence. And so she's standing there in the fog, and you have these townspeople. She's walking, and they just stop, and the townspeople just stand there and stare at her.
Yeah.
And you do see her once, like kind of like look back, like what the fuck, like that wouldn't throw enough weirdness. Like, what the fuck is up with this town?
Yeah. Maybe we should leave now. No, but instead she has a creepy encounter with the Reverend and then runs into an antique store run by the Reverend's granddaughter, Pat, who likes Pat, but not as much as I like Nan.
No.
Yeah, agree.
But she, has a nice little conversation with Pat about why she's there and everything. And Pat notices Nan's bracelet with the locket on it. It mentions that it looks expensive and old. And she's like, I believe it is, and then she loans Nan a book, which is super nice of her, really, because it looked like it was supposed to be a really expensive old book. And, Nan flat out says, I cannot pay for this. And she's like, no, you just borrow it and bring it right back to me. You're going to be here for 2 weeks. It's fine. Doesn't take down her name or number or anything, or at least I don't think she did. I don't know. You guys remember?
I mean, she got her name, so. We know, because she talked about how she got her name.
She knows her name and where she stands. So
yeah,
for those purposes,
and then goes back to the inn and commences, reading. And this part is so funny to me. I don't know if it struck you ladies as hilarious too. So at some point, Mrs. Newless comes in. Well, at some point, Lottie comes in trying to warn her again, and Miss Newless catches her at it and sends her ass out the room and warns her again, like, if you keep doing this shit, you're out.
You're good.
But she also, there's dancing out in the lobby, which I thought was kind of funny. And she's like, are you going to join the rest of the guests? And Nan's like, oh, I'm going to just finish my notes and then I'll be out. And then she's like, what was it, Nan said? Have you ever met a witch or something? Or have you ever read anything like this? Or do you believe this stuff is true? Something that's kind of ironic, being that she's speaking to the witch.
Right.
Yeah.
And you just Miss Newless the whole time. She's like, no, not that I've ever heard of. And she reads through this little passage about what they do to set up their sacrifice, how they take an object of value from them and then they replace it with like a bird with a needle through it and a piece of woodbine. And, and then on the hour of 13 on Candlemas Eve, the Candlemas, this is funny too, where the witches mock the Christian church ceremonies. Like, it's
whatever.
Okay. That's you Christians being weird again. I got nothing on this. We have in bulk on the 2nd.
I know February 2nd is a feast day.
It's Candlemas.
Catholicism. I think it was supposed to be for Saint Bridget. Maybe, I don't know. Fuck.
I believe so. Yeah.
It is.
And Candlemas is the 2nd too. But yeah, and you know how Catholic Church works. So basically, that happened because in bulk was on the 2nd, and it's all just a spring ceremony.
Yeah.
Yeah, welcoming spring. But Yeah, so she's reading this to Mrs. Newless, who's like, she's like, "What's the 13th hour?" Mrs. Newless is like, "I've only ever heard a clock strike 12."
Strike 12.
You know. Oh, but I skipped it earlier. The gaslighting bit earlier. Nan hears music coming from the floor in her room, and she'd already discovered there's a trap door there with no way to lift the trap door. And she goes and gets Mrs. Newless because she's hearing this music. And Mrs. Newless is like, "There's no basement under there, honey. It's been filled in," kind of thing. And she's like, "But I'm hearing music." And of course, the moment they both go back in the room, there's no music. And you know,
Oh,
this whole time,
and
Mrs. Newless,
it must have been water in the pipes.
yeah, just totally gaslights her. And then when we skip ahead to this little bit, you know, she leaves her, before Mrs. Newless leaves, and Nan mentions the fact, after just having read this passage about how they like, you know, set up the
How they mark
sacrifice.
the sacrifice.
Yeah. She's like, "You know, I've noticed my locket was on the dresser and it's not anymore. I'm not, you know, accusing anybody. I just, you know," she's like, "Well, I'll ask Lottie." She's like, "Well, I don't think it was stolen. I just think that maybe it got picked up by accident, you know, blah, 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 blah." Nothing in this girl's brain about this, right? And
Nothing goes, "Wow, this sounds like something I just read."
No, not ringing a bell for her. But she decides to get dressed, you know, shortly thereafter to join the festivities in the lobby. And you get like the sexiest lingerie.
I know, right?
where
This is
this
great
girl-
setup.
It was just gorgeous. This is black lace bustier, like, you know, down into a little skirt with garters, you know, which garters were very common in the 60s. So, but this was clearly not just your standard hold up my hose kind of situation.
This was a
And then she puts
fancy
on
suspense belt.
And she puts over though just kind of a plain, you know, skirt and top, nothing fancy. I'm like, "Oh, girl's a freak on the inside. You go. See, I like Nan."
Yep.
But the moment she opens her, sorry, go ahead.
And you're hearing the music the whole time she's getting ready. And much like you said, the moment she opens the door, nothing.
Nobody, gone. And then I think Newless was still there, and she asked where everybody is, and she's like, "They're gone to services." And she's like, "I never heard of these services." It's like, "You just read the book explaining this is happening." Still, Nan's not putting it together, right? So she shuts the door. She goes and opens one of the drawers of her dresser. Guess what she finds? Dead bird with a needle through it and a piece of woodbine.
Yeah. Shocker of all shock.
Think.
And at this point, yeah, you would think she would put them 2 and 2 together.
Pack
Let's
the shit up
see.
and go.
Yeah.
But no, what'd she do? Instead, they hung the key for the trap door on her blinds, right? On her curtains. I think it was making a tinging noise. So she just unscrews it, lifts up the trap door, grabs a flashlight, follows the music. Yeah, it's ignoring the whole "I'm the sacrifice" clues. that
I've been
put
reading
around.
about this and I'm going alone through a spooky basement.
That the innkeeper told me doesn't exist. Why would she do that? I don't know. I'm sure it was just, you know, funny. She gets down there, of course, boom, the witches come out, grab her. I hate calling them witches because it's really not what they are. But y'all, that's the movie. So, you know, bear with me. And of course, they throw her on an altar.
Satanic with witches versus other witches. I don't know.
I mean,
sure there's a good term.
Townsfolk.
Yeah. Because it does
townsfolk.
feel like the whole town is in on it. With the exception of the Reverend
and his granddaughter.
Yeah. Who is a transplant. She lives elsewhere, but she's only back.
Yeah, she came back after her grandma died. Yeah. So, but yeah, so Nan gets pulled across the, you know, onto the altar. She's begging Mrs. Newless not to kill her, and then Mrs. Newless makes the reveal that anybody with 3 seconds of a, you know, of thought went, "Oh, I am Elizabeth Selwyn," and then, you know, they cut, but basically, you know, that she was just stabbed the shit out of the girl.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, we're at the party of the cousins of the Barlows.
I loved that. I honestly loved that little switch out where Selwyn's holding the knife and goes wah, and then it goes to the cake cutting.
Cake cutting, yeah.
I was like, that was a clever little switch. Well done, you guys. Well done. Cinematography.
Excellent work.
Excellent.
Good editing.
Made
Good
me
editing.
laugh.
Yep.
And this is also why I think her brother is like a major jerk. So the cousin asks Barlow, I forgot his first name, Professor Barlow, whatever the hell. And He's like, hey, where's Nan? You know, she's supposed to have been here by now. And he's like, sure, she's on her way. She probably found a nice looking male witch and is bringing it with her. And she's like, Nan's never been late for anything in her life. Aren't you worried? He's like, no. And there was a knock at the door. And then he's like, oh, that's probably her right now. And there was a phone ringing or something. So the cousin's like, you get the door, I'll get this. Barlow gets the door. It's Maitland, the boyfriend. And he's like, have you seen Nan? Is Nan here yet? And again, the brother's just like, no, I'm sure she's just
It'll be
running late.
fine.
And the boyfriend's like, she's never late. So there's two people who are like, this is your sister. We know she's never late. Why the fuck aren't you worried? He's like, it's fine. I'm like, even my own brother, who he and I generally don't get along, would still be more concerned than this guy is.
In general, his name is Richard, so I think we should call him Dick.
Dick Barlow.
I think that is how they refer him in the movie.
So, Dick, yeah, Dick is way too like laissez-faire about the fact that his sister went into this, especially since he threw such an absolute fit about her going.
Yeah, he was so upset, and now it's been 2 weeks, and literally nobody's heard from her at all. And now he's just like, yeah, whatever. And he's like, maybe she met a guy and went on vacation. Who knows? And you're like, that doesn't sound like her at all. You are being an idiot.
The one I do find interesting too is that even though Maitland hadn't heard from her since she left, he never bothered to try to go after her before that either, which is kind of anti-toxic masculinity in a sense, but also kind of like, dude, this chick, no, nothing. You didn't even try to. No, okay. I'm a little concerned that you were concerned until 2 weeks later, but I admire the fact that he gave her that space.
Right. Yep. And I'm like, okay, so we will take dude bro and be like, dude bro knows about boundaries. She was like, hey, I'm going to go do my thesis thing. You need to stay away from me because I'm going to be doing a heavy studying and I need you to stay out of my way and let me do my heavy studying and I'll see you when I'm done. And he was like, cool, I will do it.
Okay.
Did it. Good on you.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the negative impact of it, but there would have been nothing he could have done. So even if this dude tried to run to the rescue, she would kill day one on her vacation. So,
yeah.
There's no saving poor Nan. Nan was just doomed the moment she went to Driscoll.
Well, the moment
Driscoll's in on it. So
yeah, he's like, oh, what a convenient little sacrifice to send off.
So Dick, Maitland, the boyfriend, convinces Dick to try to call the inn to find out if his sister left or whatever. So Dick calls. This is back in the 60s. So Dick picks up the phone, asks the operator to call the hotel, and they tell him that there is no listing for this hotel. It doesn't exist. So now he's a little concerned and he calls the cops. And he's like, she's at the Raven in Whitewood, but they're saying there is no such place. So you need to go check this out. And the cops do. You could tell that this is fiction.
Yeah, no kidding, because they actually do something about it.
Right. Yep. They're not just like, are you sure she didn't just run away? I bet she.
How long has it been since she's been missing? Are you sure you had an argument before she left? Well, you think she might still be cooling off. Yeah. At any rate, they go do their job. And when they show up, Pat had just been in the hotel at speaking to Mrs. Newless because Nan has never returned the book and it's past 2 weeks now. And Mrs. Newless kindly gives her back the book. And it's funny because there's just little interplay of, you could tell these women don't like each other.
The microaggression.
Subtle. Yeah. Because Pat, just says, she did not seem like the kind of girl who would run out and not return a book. And Mrs. Newless is like, well, maybe you should be more careful about who you lend your books to. And she's like, I am real careful about who I lend my books to.
Right? She's like,
and then she goes to leave, and Miss Newless gets very kind of creepy and dark. And he's like, what was it? Remind me to your grandfather or something. Remember me to your grandfather.
Something along those lines. Yeah.
And you could tell that she knows that this will upset the grandfather. Mrs. Newless has got this evil smile. Remember me to your. See if that goes. So, but as she's trying to walk out the door, Lottie pops in again and bumps into her in the most unsubtle way whatsoever. Doesn't even try to do an underhand handoff of the locket. She just overhand kind of like
Heaves
how
the
Mrs. Newless missed this. I don't know. But she noticed that Lottie bumped into her, and of course she yells at Lottie for being a clumsy fool or something along those lines. And as Pat is walking out, she runs into the cops, and they's like, "Oh, hey, we're here on this looking for this missing girl. Have you run into her?" And Pat's like, how funny. I did. She borrowed this book from me and she never returned it. And I just got it back from the innkeeper. And the cops look at the book and it's like a treatise on Satanism or something like that.
History of
And,
witchcraft, something.
And they're like, "Oh, we need to make note of that. That's some shit."
They're like,
And she doesn't mention to the cops about the locket though, does she?
I don't think so.
I don't think she
I don't
does.
think she does.
Yeah. But I think she might not have actually fully looked at what it was that Lottie stuck in her hand either. I'm not sure if they really
They didn't
focus on
really
it until she
cover it
gets
very
back.
well.
Until she gets back to her antique shop. But so here's where Pat's kind of the hero of the day. So Pat sees the locket now that it's in her hand and she's taking a look at it and she's like, okay, this girl would not have left this locket, and she really wasn't the type of girl not to return this book and just run out of
But
town.
she's like, something is shady.
Yeah. So she decides to go on down to whatever college that they came from and look for Nan's brother. And or any family really. And so she makes the travel down there, and she of course goes to Professor Driscoll first because, Nan had mentioned to Pat that it was Professor Driscoll's class and he was the one who recommended she go there and so on and so forth. And of course, Professor Driscoll is very, very cagey, shall we say, and very careful in his responses to Pat.
I was going to say he's very close with his words.
Mm-hmm. And like is almost not going to tell her like how to find the Barlows or anything, because he's like, well, I can just return it to the Barlows. She's like, I'd rather talk to them myself if you don't mind.
I did like that response where he offers to get the locket back to them, and she's like, no, I don't think so. I'll take care of it.
And so she figures out something's off. And actually, I think before that is that you have a scene between Dick Barlow and Professor Driscoll as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, because her brother's trying to follow up on it too, and
Yeah, trying to find out what happened to her
their
sister.
little clash between those two, and nothing much comes of it.
Yeah.
And then the scene with Pat.
He's basically
And
like, how can the inn not exist if you sent her there? Like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, which Driscoll then reveals that he lived there, so that's why he knew how it existed and all that. Like, why would you send her to a place like that? He's like, I lived there. Like, I knew the story, thought she'd find it interesting. Makes a very reasonable argument as to why he would have sent her there.
Yeah,
of
sounds
the real
perfectly
reason why
normal on
was
the
just-
surface.
Yeah. Truth was, we needed a sacrifice. I thought she'd be a good one. Off she went. No.
That truth is not going to go over well.
No, so he didn't go with that one. He just left that little bit out. It was just like, no, it was a good research opportunity for her. I grew up there. I knew about the inn. I knew she'd probably find some stuff. Though begs the question, if he grew up there, he probably knew all the stuff that was there and she wasn't going to find anything new, but that's not the point.
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, Pat does eventually hook up with Dick and Dick and Maitland, and they talk. He shows the locket, and Maitland's like, "Yeah, I gave that to her. It is expensive, and yeah, something's wrong." And then there's like a caravan that happens back up to Whitewood because Pat goes home.
Yeah.
Ends up picking up the creepy guy again because now it's what, Black Mass? Is that what it was?
I
Yeah.
didn't even pay much
Well, there was
attention at
Candlemas
that
Eve, which
point.
was one sacrifice, and then Black Mass or something like that, which is the
Yeah.
second sacrifice. It apparently happened within months of each other, a short period of time frame.
I was gonna say, which doesn't even actually make any sense, but okay.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Sure.
This doesn't work. If you were gonna do it, it would be like opposite of each other in the wheel of the year, but that's not what they did.
No.
Yeah, it does. The
apparently.
second one does seem to be kind of at random.
Yeah. It's been about a month. Let's kill another girl. But so Pat ends up picking up Jethro Keane again, the creepy hitchhiker on
Creepy
his
old
way.
dude.
Which I'm like,
Yep.
where are these people at? Because like at some point during the Candlemas Eve thing, Mrs. Newless mentions some of our guests have traveled from, had a hard journey from where
Very
the
far,
underworld.
yeah.
What? Where are they coming back? Where are these people
Where have
going?
these people gone to? Yeah.
None of this is explained. None of this is explained. I've decided in my head, canon, this is the same world as Brigadoon, where there's a fog and then there's suddenly a city and then it disappears again for like 10 years.
And that it can only be seen at certain times.
Yes.
I
And
can
you
go with
through
that
the
canon.
fog and
I'll
you're
go
in
with
the
that.
city of the dead.
I mean, except for Pat and her grandfather, because that part.
They don't make sense. They
No.
don't.
There's always a mortal stuck under hill.
Maybe, but they're in the town, and then there's the whole Driscoll being teaching at the college thing. So I don't understand what's happening here. That's not very well explained. I mean, these are all supposed to be dead people, hence the city of the dead. Like, they're
Well,
just
for a low budget film, I certainly didn't expect them to close too many of the plot holes.
no, but this one like really bothered me. I'm like, where are they at, Norm? They just living in the suburbs? What's
Well,
my brain just goes funny places.
having
Shades of
driven
Fido, I don't know.
through New England, specifically area around Massachusetts and whatnot, once you get outside of the city, you can get into creepy forest areas where you're like, my God, I'm in Cthulhu country. I know why Lovecraft wrote this. So who knows? Maybe
So
they're
I
off
guess
in
they're
Cthulhu
living in
country.
creepy forests and
Yeah.
walking to the city. I hard to say, but at any rate, Pat picks up Jethro, and of course he pulls the same disappearing act on her once she pulls into town, and you already know that this is going to end up being the next sacrifice, because why else would
Yeah.
Jethro be in the car? And she's the only other female character you run into besides Mrs. Newless. So
Yeah.
And Lottie.
Yeah, there you go.
But they made Lottie
Meanwhile,
full plain. There was no way they were going to use her.
Yeah.
well, I mean, obviously they were keeping her around for some reason to do work at the end. Who knows? But which does make her fate seem funnier, considering, you know what I mean? Like they could have just, yeah. But I guess maybe they can't know. Who knows? At any rate, Dick Barlow's following up shortly thereafter. He stops, of course, at the gas station. The gas station attendant, has a little exchange about whether or not he'd ever seen his sister. He's like, yeah, I told her not to go there. This is how you get there. He ends up going up to Whitewood and staying, at the Raven Inn and meeting Mrs. Newless. And it's so funny, like the balls on Mrs. Newless, because she's like, no, she showed up and then she ran out on the bill. Even
Yeah.
I'm like, you killed the girl. They'd be like, no.
And do you still want to get paid?
like you didn't get it out of the stuff she left. I'm sure she had cash on her because it was the 1960s and women couldn't have credit cards of their own until past the 70s. So
Yeah.
she had to be carrying cash or a checkbook. But no, she's going to get paid twice, I think, is what she was looking. So of course Dick's like, oh, I'll cover her bill then, but I'm like, the balls on that woman.
Yeah.
Like he killed her. It's not like she ran out on
You know exactly where she is. Dead.
She owes you money. Whose fault is that? But yeah, I'm sorry. I thought that was funny.
No, it was really funny. It was genuinely funny. The whole conversation between the two of them is really funny because she's like, we're closed. And he's like, no, you're not. Like, we will be closed in 2 days.
It's in a few
Then
days.
I'll stay here for 2 days. I was like, wow.
Which also makes you think that maybe that's what happens is they do disappear after the Black Mass ceremony. I don't know. But
the town closes down until Christopher Lee sends them another victim.
Yeah, until except for the antique shop and the church that isn't, I don't know. But he makes his way over to Pat's antique shop to meet the grandpa and talk about, I don't even know what. Meanwhile, Maitland's working his way up to Whitewood, only he has no luck. He runs into the gas station attendant, he gets the directions. Huge fog happens on him, and then was it Selwyn
I get
burning?
the feeling.
Yeah,
Something like that, yeah.
Saw her burning, and then he went off the road and then hit a tree and exploded a little. It was a tiny.
So he gets beat. Yeah, he gets beat up in the wreck, but is marching his way slowly towards Whitewood regardless, all injured and beat up. Meanwhile,
conversation. It was like, I'm sorry, we've taken in too many strangers today. The woods say no.
Yeah, the
No
woods are like,
more.
oh no, this is not you. We are
We'll
setting
let her
ourselves against
brother in,
you.
but not you.
Not you. You don't get to come in.
I just thought it was funny.
Maybe
Like,
they saw him. Maybe they saw him as a bigger threat. I don't know. Who knows?
I mean, he does end up killing them in the end, so they weren't wrong. But it was kind of funny. I mean, talk about your zombies. But yeah, they have a conversation. Dick goes back to the inn. Pat and her grandfather have a conversation. Pat finds, I don't think, did Pat notice anything missing first?
I can't
And
remember
then,
if she notices anything missing, but she does find the bird.
I was gonna say,
right, then she finds the bird.
The bird.
And
Woodbine
grandpa
on the
sends her to
door.
the door, and there's the herb on the door.
And then they go to leave, and the car
But the
is
car's
broken.
been tampered with.
Yeah, so they can't. So she calls him and she's like, Dick, help us. You're our only hope.
Oh, because there is nobody else in the city besides the evil Satan pact having ex-Christians. I don't know. And yeah, so meanwhile, the witches come before Dick gets there, and they throw the grandfather into a closet sort of thing, right? And then and
He's
run
just
off with
shoved off
Pat.
to the side, and they grab her.
And Dick comes in and frees the grandfather from wherever they threw him, and then starts, Maitland had shown up during that time, I think, when Dick was running over, and so he had Maitland go wait in the car, I believe. And then he ends up trying to find Pat, and he finds the stairs in the basement and follows them down, at some point Lottie tried to tell by writing a message to tell Dick what happened. Nulis caught her at it and said, "This is your last chance," and they just choked her to death, I believe.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Jethro.
Which I was like,
her.
well, you could have just sacrificed her. I mean,
Yeah, no kidding. Apparently, she wasn't good enough. Who
No,
knows? She was a flawed sacrifice, maybe because she couldn't speak. Who knows?
speaking, Satan's seen her already and was not impressed. I don't know. But poor Lottie, that
Not
they just killed her.
Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry about your luck, Lottie. You should have been quicker about writing them notes.
Yeah.
But yeah, and this matters because as Dick is running through the dark caverns to try to find Pat, he comes across her corpse, which I couldn't figure out. Did he drop a flashlight and then he picks up his lighter and then he can't get the lighter lit, and he basically is thinks he's touching the wall, and he's like, "Ew, this is weird," and it ends up being Lottie's face.
That whole part was a little confusing to me. I think that's kind of what happened, but honestly, I'm not sure.
Yeah. But eventually he makes his way out to where they're trying to sacrifice Pat, and he fires at the coven of Satan packed people, and either he has the worst aim on the earth, or apparently since they're dead they can't actually be hit by a bullet. I don't but he hits none of them.
Yeah,
I believe.
I'm going after they were trying to go for some sort of, they're supernaturally immune to normal
bullets.
That's what
damage.
They were.
Yeah.
The implication was that they could not be killed by normal means.
Yeah. And then the sacrificial knife that Elizabeth Selwyn has, she attacked him with it, I believe, threw it at him or something, because she ends up trying to kill Pat later on with the pocket. Because she had this really cool knife that she was gonna, stab at, and then that gets thrown or used as a weapon, and they all end up running outside. He gets Pat free for a minute somehow.
Yeah.
That's right. And they run outside.
And they're running, and the coven follows.
Yeah, they end up in the cemetery. They grab Pat again. They have Dick restrained, and Maitland starts crawling out from the car. And did the grandfather already yell this, or he started yelling this then? The shadow of the cross.
I think he had told them beforehand.
Yeah, he had told them beforehand.
And then Dick starts yelling it at Maitland, I believe, at some point. But I'm still trying to figure out how you're going to have a shadow at night with the fog.
This is one of those things that they just kind of hand wave.
It was
no
divine intervention. Very Deus Ex Machina. Very Deus Ex Machina.
But it's so funny because Maitland's half dead, basically trying to crawl over towards it. And somehow or something.
I don't know. I don't.
Maybe that's
so.
when they threw the knife. They might have thrown the knife at him then.
Yeah, and then he somehow finds this gargantuan wooden cross thing.
Yeah. He falls by a tombstone that has a cross that's coming. Yeah.
Because everyone knows that you put a ginormous wooden cross in your
Cemetery.
cemeteries? Question mark?
There's, I mean, there always are one. It's
Well,
supposed
they're
to be grave
usually
marker was my
stone
thought. So,
markers. Yeah,
and somehow Maitland has the strength to pull, even though he's like dying and bleeding
half
out
dead.
and
Yeah.
barely able to walk. And he pulls the grave marker that's cross shaped out of the ground, is like hugging it and walking forward. And it's slowly having a shadow out for no reason that's coming over these people. And there's, Selwyn with the pocket knife now. And they're just like, we have to finish the sacrifice. If we finish the sacrifice, we'll be okay. But they have to wait for the 13th hour. So they're counting the strikes of the clock, waiting to. And of course, the shadow hits them before they can. And Pat is miraculously saved. And all the Satan-packed ex-Christians disappear. And the town of Whitewood, which consists now of 2 people, is saved.
He set some of them on fire with it. And,
Yeah. But the fun ending, though, is that you don't see Elizabeth Selwyn burn up. So they go chasing after her into the inn. Of course, they about ready to confront her because she seems to be sitting in the chair behind the desk. They turn around and there's this burnt corpse that,
She looked more smoked than burned.
Yeah.
Lightly singed.
badly smoked human jerky.
Thus ends
Horror Hotel or
/
City of the
City of
Dead.
the Dead.
Yeah.
Which, if you're looking for it, you can search it by other name. If you're looking on Shudder for it, though, you have to search the City of the Dead. And Shudder has the extra treat where this was part of Elvira, Mistress of the Dark's 40th anniversary special. So one of the segments is the City of the Dead. So you get to hear her sing her rendition of Burn Witch Burn.
Which is definitely
Highly
worth a
entertaining.
watch. Yeah, I watched it on Tubi channel on Roku. It's free on that. It's listed under Horror Hotel on that one.
I'll be perfectly honest. I already owned this DVD and therefore I watched it on DVD.
So
That's
I
just as
had
good.
a DVD of it. It was like one.
I
My
don't know
mom
if I
cries on
do.
several levels. So she picked up, this was years ago, $1 DVD Horror Hotel because she knew I liked like dark old horror movies.
Yeah.
So I had it was like just in a little cardboard pocket sleeve,
What
So
had
I
those?
think I still have it somewhere. I just wasn't able to find it. So streaming was the easier option for me.
I get it.
God knows it could be on one of those 50 horror movies collection DVDs that I picked up from Half Price Books at some point in time.
Yeah, because
Most likely.
this was not
Yeah.
a box office success. In fact, it was a box office.
No. It made a small profit, but not very much. And it was a low budget film to begin with.
Yeah.
I think the budget was $54,000.
Which is probably why you have
granted-
the sexy lingerie scene. They were hoping that would.
Yeah, probably.
Sex it up a
Of
little.
course, granted, that was 1960 pounds. So who knows?
I mean,
Yeah.
they have Christopher Lee.
Yeah.
And I love
Mhm.
him. And he's fine.
Oh, I adore him.
But they did not use him to his nth degree of Christopher Lee-ness. Like, they just didn't. They didn't utilize Christopher Lee of Christopher Leeing. They didn't let him be like the smarmy bitch that he can be. Why would you hire him and then not let him Christopher Lee?
He
It
needed a little more screen time too.
Yes.
In my opinion.
The worst part, the terrible tacky cape and the bird that he's killing right before the
Oh yeah, in the office before Nan's
before Pat showed up,
relative,
before
yeah,
Dick
yeah.
Barlow showed up. But either way, it was pretty funny. Like, who's supposedly performing this sacrament,
Sacrifice.
whatever.
And then just becomes
ex-Christian Satan
college
people do.
professor. Yeah, just a college professor. And I wasn't just performing a sacrifice with a dead pigeon in my
Nope.
room.
Wasn't me. Don't mind the purple cape. I'm assuming it's purple. I mean, it's a black and white movie, so you really don't know, but it just struck me as purple and glittery.
It's a purple cape. It's purple is magic.
But I recommend watching because it is very nice atmospheric wise. You get really great spooky vibes.
Mhm.
You
Truly.
get repeat things. So where you had the creepy townsfolk stopping and staring at Nan, you also had them stopping and staring at Dick. So it was very interesting how they played that off.
I did like the repetition of going into the town where everybody stops at the exact same
But the
gas.
gas, yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody stops when they hit the fog and they're not sure if they're at the right road. Everybody like is on that crazy windy path that goes through the woods. And even when God, I just forgot his name. Maitland
Phyllis,
gets
Phyllis,
in
the boyfriend.
wreck.
Yeah, yeah.
Even when he gets in the wreck, it was still the same path. And you're like, that was really nice repetition. Like they really set that up. Like this is how you get to this town. He was not allowed in, which I really liked. Like there were some interesting ideas in this. It's not 13 women bad implementation, but it just wasn't
It's
Good.
not really
Fair.
bad. It's not really a bad movie, but
No.
neither really is it a good movie, but it is an enjoyable movie.
I was gonna say it's fine to watch.
Mhm.
I would watch it again for Selwyn any day.
Oh yeah.
She was
Patricia
awesome.
Jessel was great.
I mean, I
Yes.
guarantee I'll watch it again. No.
Well, and then I realized like because I was doing that, her face looked so familiar to me. We recently watched A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum from like
Yep,
the
she was.
70s. She starred in that. And I was like,
Oh, there you go.
there it is. Because I couldn't figure it out. I was like, her face is so familiar. And she plays like the uppity kind of wife in that. And I was like, that makes sense.
She died really young. She died at, well, I mean, I feel like it's really young because she died at 47, and that's what I turn next month.
And
So
I
was
am
very young.
47.
Yeah, she died at 47 of a heart attack. And that I was like, ow.
I'm gonna go with
Yikes.
Coke.
It wasn't.
Whenever I hear like people died like before like their 60s of a heart attack, I tend to think
Either a
there's some
congenital,
drugs involved.
a congenital heart
Or
defect
drugs.
or drugs. It's one or the other.
I don't know why 60s is my cutoff for that, but I feel like well, it's mostly you hear about heart attacks happening post 60s, strokes, heart attacks, all this stuff,
Yeah.
especially among smokers. But the 47 for a heart attack seems a little young to me.
It's pretty
But-
young.
Yeah.
But she was great. She chewed the scenery with the best of them. I was like, you know what? I'll take a little bit milquetoast Christopher Lee for her chewing the scenery the whole time because she's great.
She was a lovely villain.
But Betta St. John, who played Pat, she's still alive and kicking. Just
Um,
FYI.
As is Venetia Stevenson.
Yes.
They're both still alive.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, hey. Oh, and Dennis Lotus is actually also still alive. He had been a singer before he did
Mhm.
this. He was mostly known for singing. He has not acted since like 1989.
Yeah.
So he
Dennis
retired.
Lotus was Dick Barlow, people, so you know, catch up.
Yeah, Dick. Dick is still alive. You
Dick
can't tell
never
Dick.
dies.
Aren't they always, unfortunately?
Yeah, I just thought it was really interesting. But almost all of them have completely retired from acting.
Yeah.
Which
And actually, a lot, I think two of them might have retired at least partially. The guy who played the grandfather in Pat, I think, retired for a while after this movie. I think Pat, Betta St. John, actually did show up in cameos in later movies, like in the 80s or 90s. But as far as like a steady acting career, she stopped after this movie.
yeah. And
Interestingly
then,
enough.
Venetia Stevenson actually married one of the Everly brothers, Don Everly, for a long time. They got divorced in the 1970s and she became a screenwriter or a script producer. She would read scripts for different, specifically Burt Reynolds' company, his production company. She was a script supervisor. I thought was a really cool fact. And it said she's still beautiful and likes to ride horses and has never remarried.
Oh, wow. That's great.
I was like, that's lovely. I love knowing that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my mom is, I'd have to stop and do the math, but late 70s, about to turn 80, and she still enjoys writing.
So I was just like,
Very limited, but
I'm like, you know what? You do your thing. But she was like, apparently she was pretty shy. And always found acting to be very, very hard because it's very cutthroat. So when she married the Everly brother, she was like, I'm never acting again, and gladly gave it up. And I was like, good on
It
you.
sounds like, especially if she was pretty shy, being behind the scenes would help.
Absolutely. And that's, I was like, good on you, girl. Do your thing.
But yeah, so not a lot to really talk about. I mean, other than the fun fact that you will find bits and pieces of this movie showing up in, like, as heavy metal videos and some rock videos and song lyrics, as Rebecca pointed out.
Yeah.
I think you probably see it in backgrounds of other movies whenever you see
Apparently,
Burning Witch.
Probably.
The Curse of the Blair Witch, which was
Yes.
mockumentary about the making of Blair Witch. They used some of the townsfolk.
I think the opening burn
Oh,
scene.
nice.
Yeah, they used some of that for it.
So you'll see this movie and you'll probably keep seeing it. So that alone kind of makes it worth the watch. And just atmospherically, if you're having a creepy party, it's a good thing to have in the background, in my opinion.
Oh,
Because you don't have
That's
to pay a lot of
that's
attention to
perfect
it.
use for it. Yeah.
yeah, because it's not you don't necessarily want to sit down and just solidly watch this movie. There's a lot of repetition, which I
Maybe
like.
have some knitting in your hands while you're
Bust out your best
while you're
coffee
watching
drink.
it. Yeah.
Mix drinks out. Yeah. But yeah, but if you're looking for like a good classic horror, this is not it. But it's fun.
I was gonna say it's fun. It's fine. Like,
If you want to riff track it, that's even better.
it's pretty much what we did.
Be good for that one.
In our house, that's pretty much what happens every time we watch these movies. Sorry. It just is. I'll be like,
Yeah.
"Ooh."
You could probably make a good drinking game out of it.
Drink every time a townsperson stares at Nan.
I was gonna say, every time somebody's creepy at Nan, take a drink.
Oh, we don't want to get people give alcohol poisoning,
Every time it says, but Nan is never late, there's at least 3 shots there. So
Yeah.
but yeah,
Or the brother being witchcraft is superstitious nonsense.
yeah.
That
Or
could be
Maitland.
another one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Either one of those, yeah.
Yeah. Either of them talking about it being nonsense.
Hmm.
So there's many uses of this movie, and like you could see, it's a lovely backdrop for a Zoom background, by the way.
It is. I think it's gorgeous.
That is wonderful.
And also, I'll admit that if I had the money, I'd probably have a fog machine going around my yard every fucking day, but I'd never shut it off.
They're not expensive.
Well, running
I'm
them
helping.
probably run up the electric bill.
Okay, yes. Running the electric bill
And the fog
would be
juice, and my
much,
dogs
but
probably wouldn't really.
but maybe you could just do it around Halloween.
There we go.
I do love a good fog machine. Ooh.
Yeah.
All right. Well, any other final thoughts, ladies?
Other than what I've said before, it's not a good movie. It's not a bad movie. It's an entertaining film. Don't expect a lot from it. It's a nice atmospheric. I'm a little bored. What do I want to watch? Something vaguely creepy. There you go. It's your film.
Yeah.
Betsy, you got anything?
Keen has a fantastic voice. I forgot to say that because his voice is super deep, like super deep. Apparently, they called him the British Vincent Price.
I'll have to look him up.
But the guy who played him, his name was Valentine Dial, which is a name,
An excellent name,
right? But yeah, he was considered the British Vincent Price. He did a whole lot of voiceover work because of his deep voice. Which when he spoke, I was like, wow, that is a deep voice. But his character was nothing.
No.
He showed up
Other than the creepy guy in the car, which is funny because then you bring up his voice. He was creepy dude, but you're like, you can just keep talking though.
yeah, because he had a wonderful voice, like this super deep, like British voice. And I'm like, that's all right though. That's all right.
I'd love to hear audio recordings of him reading Poe.
What I was reading some of the stuff that he did, like, if you watch the ancient 1970s Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, 1960s, 70s, the one that they did for TV that was for the BBC, and it's like 6 episodes, he's deep thought. So I was like, this is fun. I like this guy.
I may have to look that up now.
Yeah. Like, I don't know him from anything, but I really enjoyed him and reading his history. Like, he does a lot of voiceover type work and different things like that. It was very interesting. So he's worth looking into because he has a lovely voice. But I loved he's the British Vincent Price. I was like, Brits, you can share Vincent Price.
Because Vincent Price was an Anglophile, so he wouldn't be mad at being
Yeah.
considered British.
No, we'll share him with you. There is enough Vincent Price to go around.
Well, all right. With that, watch it
Watch it.
or don't.
Yeah.
But
It's very
I
free.
think you should watch it.
Watch it.
Yeah. It's for free. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's worth a shot.
TV never fails. And thanks for paying attention for a whole like one viewer that I'm sure is watching this when we put it. We appreciate you.
We do. No viewer number is too small as long as it's one at least.
With that, this has been Girls Go Schools.
You have been listening to the Girls Go Schools podcast. You can follow us on Facebook or Instagram at Girls Go Schools podcast, on Twitter at Girls Ghost Pod. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Girls Go Schools podcast, and find our podcast on your favorite podcatcher.